these three levels clearly compartmentalized, demarcated. Can someone show traits in all the three levels? Yeah, they are not compartmentalized and separate. They are there, they're all in a mixed form. These three levels, as I said, we are scattered at all levels. To some extent at the subhuman level also. You should pardon me, but if I look at myself, I find some aspect of this acquisition, retention and transference aspect of it. Why do I acquire? Just for the heck of it. Then at the other level of achievement, recognition and triumph. Then acceptance, relationship and trust. Then again at the actuality, reality and the truth. See, these dimensions are, as I mentioned right at the beginning, only for our discussion, I'm classifying them, or this classification brings about clarity and focus on certain things. If I want to look at myself very closely and examine myself, I may find some dimensions, some aspects in me which are really subhuman, which are tamasic, which are driven by ignorance. And some driven by this sense of achievement. The motivation for all actions is recognition or becoming better than somebody. So they are not compartmentalized, but they are scattered in a way, and we find all the aspects of us, all the aspects in us at different times or in different forms. So we do show these traits at all the levels, and that is where one needs to pull oneself together. That is the meaning of yoga or integration, pulling oneself together and coming to that state. Okay. Then we have another question by Mr. Subbarao Nagarajan. As we grow in life, we are advised to have achievement, motivation, and zeal to achieve certain goals. Is this correct and not necessarily tamasic? A bit of I comes in. Yes, I did not call it as tamasic achievement. I called it as rajasic actually. Rajasic aspect of it is very important. Nobody denies the fact of it. But do we recognize it? That is my motivation. Achievement and recognition and winning over or becoming better than somebody, is it my motivation? That's what we look at it. It is the motivation at one level. But that should not be the motivation throughout one's life. Isn't it? And that is not also. See, along with achievement, I also seek acceptance. Along with recognition, I also seek relationship. Along with being triumphant and better than others, I also seek trust in others. So as I said, these are all very intricately bound together. They are very closely connected to one another, but one needs to examine them carefully and see how they are operating or which is dominating in me. Am I driven completely by one aspect of it, or am I able to recognize that this should not be the dominant aspect of it, but it should be something which I should recognize and then bring myself together so that my consciousness, my whole being expands in the process. I hope, yeah, a bit of I comes in. Yes, it is always there. As long as we have a set of bodies, we have this body, we have this individualized consciousness, this sense of I will prevail. And that's what we go through. So that's not something wrong. But as I said, can we become more and more integrated? That is what yoga literally means. Yoga literally means that. Becoming integrated. Joining together, bringing ourselves, pulling all these two things together and becoming much more integrated, and much more clarity of perception should be there. And because ultimately, as I said, the whole driving force is happiness. If you take away this dimension of happiness from life, there's nothing to live for. It's a sensual pleasure. You eat something, you feel happy about it. You see something, you enjoy. All this is something natural, but it can't be stuck at that level. It can't be stuck at that level. It has to progress and see the higher dimensions of the same happiness. As I said, it's all connected. how to practice continuous sadhana on both the triads. See, this is something which is very elaborately given, but that is only the, you see, don't look at some kind of a method or a system or a procedure, laid down procedure. There is a laid down procedure in several schools of thought, whether it is Vedanta. Vedanta starts with sadhana chatushtaya, viveka, vairagya, shat sampatti and mumukshutva. That we have other programs are there where I have elaborated on this aspect. There is this sadhana chatushtaya. That's not it's not a cut and dried process. One has to individualize one's own sadhana. What are the aspects which I find are dominating me? Whether they are regressive or progressive. This is what needs to be done. A close examination. This is what is self-knowledge or self-discovery or self-realization. All these are basically looking inward and seeing how and in which direction I am being driven. Whether my motivations, my actions, my thoughts, my emotions are regressive in nature or constricting me or restricting, making it more and more narrow down, or is it expanding? Is it progressive? So that's the one which one has to continuously bear in mind when one is going through life, and that becomes the sadhana, and that becomes the continuous sadhana. As I said, you need to understand the complexity of the trigunas and the three aspects, both the triads of Satchidananda and Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. These gunas and these aspects are closely interrelated, and one needs to see them with clarity. Once one sees them with clarity, then what happens? Perception becomes much more important and clearer, and your motivation for action. And sometimes, as I used to say, inaction could be the most dynamic action. From a spiritual point of view, inaction is the most dynamic action. That's the difference between the Western psychology and the Eastern thought. Western psychology is driven by action, by activity. Whereas if you see the philosophical background and the scriptural background, whether it is the Buddha or Adi Shankara or even Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti talks about passive perception or observation, attention. Inaction, he says, is the most dynamic action. Sometimes it is important to completely perceive and pay attention to it without any interference of this thought process. Otherwise, what happens is it will drag you into a different dimension altogether. So continuous sadhana, yes, it is there. The way forward is to look at oneself and see what are the driving forces and see whether what motivates me is regressive and dragging me down into narrower and narrower vision of life, or is it progressive and taking me into the vastness of life, where I am able to see the greater dimension of life. And there is Anuji. Namaste. Different stressors also cause us to lose our happiness. How to live internally centered in an external world, how to see things as they are and not let them affect our emotional nature. See, that's what I've been trying to say. Are we able to see objective things objectively? See, your cell phone has a utilitarian value. But if I am emotionally attached to it, people are attached. People are terribly, concerned, terribly personal about their phone, their iPad or iPod or laptop or whatever you call it as. You get emotionally attached to things. We have brought an unnecessary dimension into it. We don't see the utilitarian aspect of it. We are somehow seeking happiness in material things. Then what is happening? We are somehow trying to see or get happiness in relationship. And obviously, see, these relationships give tremendous sense of satisfaction, tremendous sense of enjoyment or pleasure or happiness at one dimension. But am I being dragged and driven by that only is what is to be seen. So, see, we are stressed out because we are looking for this pleasure. We are always looking for somehow being in a pleasant state of being and avoiding everything and anything that is unpleasant. But situations outside don't operate according to our will and wish. You have problems with material things, you have problem with relationships, you have problem with everything. Because the problem is not outside, but the problem is inside, because how you relate to things, how you look at it. That's what I said, objectively are we able to see the actuality of it. And what is the subjective dimension which gives reality to things? I live in my own world. I live in my own dimension. I don't see anything beyond that. So how do I move from this? It is, as I said, internally centered is a very good word you have used. It is basically yoga. Internally centered. There's one very good author, I keep referring to him sometimes, Professor Ravi Ravindra. He says we have to move from the self-centered to centered self. I think there is one talk which I have given on this aspect also. You will find this in the Rutambara website and upload it to YouTube also, because the title of it is Self-Centered to Centered Self. So you see, you have to move from one dimension to the other where you are not affected by any of these things. That is what the centered self is, what the Bhagavad Gita refers to as the Sthita Prajna. Undisturbed. Obviously, you see, things outside will always be changing and things are always in movement. Things are always dynamic. Situations, life is dynamic by its very nature. But to what extent am I affected by it is what is important. And it's a question of, again, perception. It's a question of perception. And maybe, as I said, going deep into oneself and see, and maybe we see we can do an exercise. A lot of these, management courses talk about these exercises. I'm not I'm not very fond of giving exercises from a spiritual point of view, but from one's own perspective, if one can note down what are the things I am doing in life on a daily basis, what is my motivation? What do I want out of the whole damn thing? Try to be very, very clear, ruthless, absolutely true to oneself. What is it that is driving me? What is it that I am motivated by? I want more money. I want better relationship. I want more comforts. I want more. What do I want? So jot down, note down carefully and see at every level of my emotion and every level of my thought, what is it that I am being driven by? Is it scattered? Am I being pulled in 10 different directions simultaneously? How do I collect myself, gather myself, pull myself together, and then become integrated? That is what is important, and that is how you need to attack. And there's nothing, as I said, there's no universal mantra. There's no panacea which can be applied to everybody and anybody at all levels. No, it is something very much individual. One has to examine oneself very carefully. As I said, ruthlessly. We go on justifying ourselves. No, anybody in this situation would do like this only. It is quite normal to live like this. Everybody goes out, everybody does this, everybody does that. I'm only following what society is dictating, or what generally people call it as life. That need not necessarily be true. What people generally call as life is different in different cultures, is different in different countries. It is different for individuals at their own level. So why become a stereotyped thing? See, from a stereotype, one needs to progress to what is called as an archetype. Archetype is you are a unique individual. You are unique in all respects, and that uniqueness persists. It's something which can't be taken away. And if one discovers one's own uniqueness, one is able to see the whole thing in a better manner. Okay? Bhakti and self-inquiry are closely related to progression of art. Obviously, it's bhakti in the sense, here we are talking about devotion, dedication, a strong conviction, and a commitment to what we want to do. In self-examination also, we should have that commitment. Commitment in the sense that it should be something which is always there in the background of one's own consciousness, that I want to see the whole thing. That is the sense of detachment. When you have this background, which is looking at the whole process, there is a sense of detachment from the whole thing. Once there is a sense of that detachment, things become easier. Over a period of time, if you are completely detached, like you are watching a comic movie or some Tom and Jerry cartoon. Your Tom and Jerry cartoon, you are detached. You are not a part of the whole game, but you enjoy it, isn't it? You enjoy all the pranks that are going on the screen, how Tom and Jerry are playing. The whole life is that. If we get detached from it and not connected to it, we find a lot of enjoyment and happiness as to what is happening. It's a Leela. That is why they have termed it as Leela. Leela is a play. For the divine, it's a play. And it can be a play for us also, provided we are detached from it and look at it from a higher perspective, at the peak, sitting at the peak, at the top of the mountain, you see the whole valley, you see the beauty of the whole expanse of space. And that perspective is what is to be developed for oneself also. And that is the spiritual progression which we are talking about. The ancient Indian system of teaching focused on the spiritual growth compared to the present system, which focuses on achievement recognition. Can one progress straight to the fourth level? See, it depends on how one looks at it. And at what level one is delusioned, there is this disillusionment, at what level it occurs. Technically, yes. Because Adi Shankara himself says, from brahmacharya, you can directly go to sannyasa. You need not go through the intermediary process of grihastha and vanaprastha. It is a state of mind. This ashrama dharma is a state of mind. So, but technically, yes, it is possible to move from this achievement, recognition, motivation to actuality, reality, and the truth aspect of it. You are progressing directly from it. Technically possible, but what happens is there are several aspects linked to it. For example, one's own karma. See, that is why they say marriages are made in heaven. If you are destined to get married, nothing will prevent it. You may resist it any amount, and one may think that I'll not marry, I'll not do it unless something very strong acts on you, and you are destined not to get married. Otherwise, your resistance to that doesn't help. That is the reason why they say marriages are made in heaven. It's not that somebody is sitting there and operating some computer, but there is something called as driven by destiny. So if you are to be in a relationship with somebody, you are destined to get into that relationship. And that relationship is always, again, something which is working out. Your karma is working out. Your whole structure of your life is slowly being unraveled. And then you can progress. But as you said, can one progress straight to the fourth level without? Yes. But then it is not something to be randomly done, but it should be a very conscious decision. A very conscious decision, as where one understands the futility of the intermediary stages. The futility of it should be something which hits him hard on the face, and therefore he can progress from the first to the last. There's nothing different. Art based on gunas are superimposed with the action of yugas. Yeah, see, I'll not like to go deep into this Yuga Dharma because that itself is a topic on which I have some material which because of paucity of time, I think we have already, it's 8:10 there. It is 1 hour, 10 minutes or 1 hour, 5 minutes because we started at 7:05. But the, the whole manifestation in different yugas is driven by some primordial forces. And that is what is called as the Yuga Dharma. There is a dharma for a yuga, for each eon, like Kali Yuga has a dharma, and the earlier yugas have their own dharmas. So that is what is the broad outline that is given to us. It's not a narrow outline, it's a very broad outline. The Yuga Dharma, though it is that is the most dominant and prevalent aspect of it, it is not binding by itself. It is not restrictive by itself. You can always understand the Yuga Dharma and transcend that Yuga Dharma.
My point was, anyway, we don't have much time. What I wanted to communicate was, see, currently we are in Kali Yuga. So
Right.
that means a preponderance of tamasic and rajasic people percentage is more. That is my point.
Yes. That is true. That is true. So as you said, the sattvic aspect, we need to be, work extra hard to become sattvic in this environment. As you rightly said, when the whole force is more rajasic, tamasic and rajasic.
Yeah, it requires much more effort to continue to be sattvic.
Yes, it requires an additional effort to become sattvic. That is true. That is very much true. And that is how the Yuga Dharma also acts. And as I said, these are all apparent obstacles on the path, which can definitely be overcome but through one's own sankalpa, through one's own willpower. We can overcome that. I hope there are no more questions. It's already.
Yeah.
Do you think the youth today have lost their motivation and are searching for deeper meaning in their lives? They're thus moving away from conventional ways of living. Yeah, you see, it is obvious. It has to happen. It is something which has to, when one has abundance of everything. After some time, you lose the charm of it is lost. It is a good thing. It's a good thing that youth of today are able to experience things at a much faster pace than what our generation or the generation prior to us might have experienced. It was a very slow moving thing. It was a very relaxed and slow moving thing for us. If we look at our own people in their 50s and 60s, if they look at their own life, it was a very relaxed way. We had a nice, happy schooling. Nobody was bothered about marks. Nobody had this stress. Nobody started for IIT coaching for at the 6th class level. Nobody thought about becoming this or that. And a majority of them were royal class people. Royal class in those days was the 3rd class. If you get less than 50% marks, you were in that royal class, and most of them were there. And there used to be very few first class students, and anybody who got 60 and above were very few. So there was a very relaxed way of things, and we didn't have much material comfort and all that. But today, you see the fast pace of things. It's absolutely very fast, and it is good in one way. See, people are disillusioned at a younger age, much younger age. Now, and they are willing to take risk. Earlier, there was no question of taking any risk by us. You do schooling, then you do go to the college, then you go to a job, then you get settled down, and all that was there. Now, I find the children of my friends in US and all, one friend of mine, I've been talking to him recently, he is based out of US, an Indian who was my classmate. Now, his son suddenly said, I want to go to South America and I'm leaving everything and going away for 6 months. Fine. There's no question of the parents objecting also nowadays now, because he's already in his 30s. What about getting married? He said, don't bother me about all those things. I want to explore the world. You explore it. So it's a good thing, it is something good. You see, everything there is a divine plan in operation, and things manifest ultimately for reaching a particular stage of evolution from the human evolution stage, where one becomes much more expansive. So it is good, having excess of everything, you are disillusioned. at much earlier thing. No, we see for us in childhood, an ice cream was a very precious thing. But now I find children, my nephew's son is here, he's about 9 years or so. He refuses most of the things. You give him an ice cream, he says, I don't care. Because he had had enough of it. And it is readily available for him. So what happens is, they will be forced to search for something deeper. And the earlier it happens, the better it is. So the fast pace at which life is moving and people are encountering things, it could lead to some problems of stress also, some severe, I was really surprised to find that through some studies that in India also nowadays, school children are seeking psychological counseling and psychiatric treatment and all that, which was totally unheard of for us. We were never stressed out to that extent, but now people are conducting counseling classes for school children, and then individual students are seeking counseling and all that. And here comes my stress buster. He gets up early in the morning and he looks at here and we are trying to prevent him from staring at the screen. But now we can't avoid it. We can't avoid it. He comes and keeps staring at things. Hi. So you see, his life would be something totally different. His life would be something totally different. And from a divine point of view, it is something good. COVID is a part of the drive by the divine. Obviously, it could be. You see, the nature, it is not really divine in one way, as we understand, but it is a response of nature. It's a response of nature, and it is out here to teach us so many things. It is out here to teach so many things to us, and that's where we experience it. So it is always to be seen as an experience. Don't shun, don't avoid it, don't condemn it, don't justify it, don't accept it, don't reject it, don't do anything, but experience it. Experience it with one's total being. And that itself is a great revelatory thing. It reveals so many things about the inner dimensions of life. That's how we look at it.
Okay. That's all questions, I think. Reshmi?
Yes. Thank you so much, Krishna Paniji. Premji, I would request you to kindly give the vote of thanks.
No. We are a part of the same Ritambara family, yes. And it doesn't need any formal vote of thanks.
Exactly, you're part of this. So anyway, thanks for taking your time. You're far away from the country at the moment. Yeah. Time difference.
Yeah. No issues. It's always a pleasure. And
it's always a pleasure to listen to you at any time. So thank you from Ritambara once again for taking your time and very clearly articulating all the three different levels and coining the acronym ART, which remains in the minds of people. So very beautifully laid out and all the four levels clearly explained. So thank you very much, Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Krishna Paniji, once again. Thank you to all our participants and guests for your valuable presence this evening. Please join us for our 2 upcoming programs. On Sunday, 13th September, we have a yoga program by Umesh Bhagatji starting 7 a.m. onwards. It's based on boosting your immunity. And on Tuesday, 15th September, we have Achal Mehraji speaking to us about yoga for mental wellness. Please block your dates for the upcoming webinar. Thank you once again for your presence and participation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.